on! You son of a bitch!
From Venice Beach, California!
Better, stronger, faster.
Welcome to the first episode of the Better, Stronger, Faster podcast. We're your hosts. My name is William Shewfelt. I'm an actor, probably best known for wearing red spandex on TV, and I also am really involved in health and fitness, and the creator of the Carnivore Shredding program, which is my way of getting people ripped and lean and kind of shredded.
And I'm Chris Bell, director of Bigger, Stronger, Faster, which a lot of you may have seen, may have not seen. Another documentary called Trophy Kids, which appeared on HBO. I did a documentary called Prescription Thugs, which is on Netflix. And I have a movie called A Leap of Faith that just came out on Netflix right now, which is about the pain-killing plant kratom, which brings us to today's topic, the carnivore diet.
Yes.
Because a big part of me getting out of pain was starting on the carnivore diet. I have a lot of people that follow me on Instagram, and they want to know, how do I do it? How do I get involved? What do I do? Hey, I really like the results that you got, but I don't know what I'm doing. And I'll just write back red meat and water, or I'll send a steak emoji, and that's kind of it, usually. Yeah. We don't have time to answer all those questions, but some people I do have time to answer questions. And the other day I got an email from somebody I'd answered a question from a year ago. The guy weighed over 400 pounds, or almost 400 pounds, I should say. He weighed almost 400 pounds. And when he sent me the email, he weighed 223 pounds. Yeah. I was completely blown away. And by seeing that, it made me think that we have a responsibility to not just send people steak emojis and give them more information, Yeah. A lot of times I don't have the time to do that. So what I did is I put up a post and I asked people to send us questions, and we can, rifle through a bunch of questions. In the sense, I'm a former power lifter, and you're more into bodybuilding and looking like Bruce Lee. True. I think that it'd be great for us to both answer these questions, seeing as we have different goals and different reasons for doing the diet and different results. We have different goals, and the diet is working well for both of us towards our goals, I feel like. It works for everything. Everybody should do it, and it works for everything. That's what I like to say. Basically. But we're kidding, but we'll get to that.
The interesting thing you were saying about like sending a steak emoji or something like that is the diet can actually be that simple, but I think people have so many just so many questions that get raised inside. Is this really healthy? And they want to know, is it really sustainable? And to answer all of those questions, you'll never fully satisfy everyone. So I think the best thing we can do is just to answer their questions today and see how many we can get through. And just give the best advice we've, had from doing this diet for, how long have you been doing this now?
I've been doing it since January, so it's almost a year. We're almost at a year. Coming up on World Carnivore Month. I started because Dr. Sean Baker started World Carnivore Month in January of last year, and I was going to interview him for a documentary that I'm working on. And I said to him, well, I'm just going to start your diet because I want to know where we're at. I want to be able to talk to you as a human being about this and know what happens in the body. So I decided to start it 2 weeks before I interviewed him, just to see, okay, I can do this for 2 weeks. Let's see how it goes. And I stayed on it ever since because the results were so amazing to me. Now, the caveat to this is that I had done exactly a carnivore diet back in 1995, but we just used to call it red meat and water, because that's sort of how it was presented to us. It was presented to me and Mark by a guy named Ron Fedko at Gold's Gym, where I told this story before, but I was powerlifting, and he thought I was too fat to be in the weight class I was in. I was in the 242 class. He said I needed to lift at 198. Yeah. So he wanted me to go down, not just one weight class, but two. And maintain strength. Yeah, he actually told me that I could weigh like 165, which is ironic because if I go get my body fat checked and I was to be 0% body fat, I'd weigh 165. Yeah. So I think that's where he wanted me, was like to be shredded and powerlifting, because that's what he was. He was 198 pounds and he was all muscle. And this guy's name was Ron Fedko. Ron Fedko is like a really interesting guy. He's one of those 1 in a million people that you meet. He came into Gold's Gym. He would bring his own bar because he didn't want to use any of the bars there because they were always bent. So he would bring his own bar. he had like a whole crew of people that would help him out every day, to lift.
You just carry that into the gym?
He just carried in every day.
Wow.
He basically ate red meat and water. Every girlfriend that he ever had to go on a keto diet because that's just what he did. Like he was just this crazy.
Is he still around?
Yeah. He's actually even more interesting. You want me to one up his interestingness?
Yeah.
He won an Academy Award for special effects.
Okay.
He's a guy that develops all the programs to like blow things up in Hollywood. So he develops all the algorithms that go into Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
So for all the Star Wars stuff and all, we see the planets blow up
Yeah.
and they explode and it looks real. Ron figures out how those things, the math behind all the things that make
So
it
brain
work.
function was good on this carnivore diet for him.
He was too smart for his own good because the way that he would function in the gym, like, with people and around people was kind of funny. He wasn't the most, I guess, he wasn't the nicest guy all the time to people. I remember like sometimes in the gym, if people would get in his way, he would get pretty aggressive and pretty mad, but he was funny, he was funny in the fact that he was so kind of full bore, so, sort of something that I always took from him was intensity in the gym and being intense. But
is he still doing carnivore?
Well, no. He did it for a little while. He completely quit lifting.
Oh, wow.
Him, to certain people, things like lifting weights are just a challenge. I have another friend named Tom McGee who used to compete in the world's strongest man competitions, and then he went into like mountain climbing because to him, well, I already competed in world's strongest man. I already did that. I want to do something completely different. And he went into climbing these gigantic mountains. So he went from a 300-pound guy to like a 200-pound really lean guy,
Yeah.
So we kind of see people that take these extreme, changes, and he's just one of those guys.
It's less of a lifestyle for them, and it's more, I think their lifestyle is about goal setting and just chasing different challenges and obstacles in life, which I think is kind of cool. That's kind of the way I approach some things. Like I'm never religiously stuck to anything, but I'm focused on what am I actually trying to achieve with this. And that's actually a pitfall that I think a lot of people fall into, where they become attached to whatever the process is that's getting them to their goal, and then they identify themselves with that, and they forget about the goal. And you're like, well, you got to remember, this is why you were doing it in the first place. You don't have to.
Well, speaking of identity and things like that, I think a lot of this diet stuff becomes very personal to a lot of people.
Very personal.
And I just heard Dr. Baker and Lane Norton, they were on my brother's podcast.
Yeah.
And they were actually talking about that. Like if you see a guy with his diet in his Instagram handle, like maybe you should think about what he's telling you, because think about it, and we've all been guilty of this. We get excited when we get on a diet. We want to tell everybody, and that's why I just said before, it's for everybody and everybody should do it, right? But when you think about it, when you put your identity with the things that you eat, we're much more than that. We are so much more than that.
a diet.
But what we eat is important, and how we spread our message is very important. So I always tell people when they're first starting, just take a step back. Don't tell anybody you're doing this for like a month.
Yeah.
And that's usually the hardest part of the diet, right?
Yeah.
If you put somebody on a carnivore diet and say, do it for a month, but don't tell anybody. Like, don't tell anybody is actually the hardest part. Actually doing it isn't that difficult compared to like how excited you get and you want to tell people, right? Now it's okay to tell people, but I also think it's not okay to like be spreading it around like it's for everybody. It's like you got to figure out,
especially if you're just starting, give it some time. Yeah.
My advice is this: if you started a carnivore diet and it's helped you, just tell people what you've done. Like I think that if you look at AA, where I come from a recovery community, and you ask people about sobriety and how they got sober, and it's like, oh, I heard this guy speak and it changed my life. You never hear somebody say, somebody talked me into it. You know what I mean? It's like, no, I heard what got me sober, and I can tell you right now, you're gonna love it. What got me sober was a video that my brother sent me, and it was from the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh wow.
And he said, you're lost, you don't know where to go, I want you to go out and walk all fucking night searching for yourself. And when he said that, I'm like, that's what I need to do. Sometimes something just hits you.
Yeah.
And I went out and I walked for like 3 hours, and I was crying, and I had my headphones on. I was listening to stuff, and I was just thinking about my brother, my older brother, Mad Dog, who passed away. I was thinking about why I was drawn to drugs, why I got off the path, So I think by inspiring people and striking a chord with people can really, really change your life. There's something that I said in a post to this guy, Steve Slauson. That's who we're talking about here. I posted the other day, and this guy, Steve Slauson, hit me up and said, "Hey man, I just want to let you know that a year ago I was down in the dumps. I was depressed. I thought maybe my wife would leave me. I thought maybe my kids didn't really love me anymore because I couldn't play with them as I used to. I just had all these weird thoughts of things that could possibly happen in my life if I continue to eat this way and continue to stay here at close to 400 pounds. So he immediately just kept following what I was doing and just followed my example. He didn't do anything else. He didn't reach out to me and ask me a bunch of questions. He just followed what I was doing. He saw it in black and white on Instagram, and he said, you know what, this is what I need to follow. And he lost, over 100 pounds in like 9 months or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the way you get your message out there.
That's the catalyst for all the other changes. And you're right. When you try to argue with people and when you try to back them into a corner and say that you're right and they're wrong, they're never going to listen to you. Their defenses come up. But if you just say, hey, this is working for me and this is my lifestyle now that I've done it, it's so much more attractive to people. They would rather be inspired than told that they're wrong.
It's like trying to fight the bouncer to get in a bar.
Yeah.
What's going to happen after you fight the bouncer? You're not going to get in and have a good time.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the same thing with arguing with people. You're going to argue with them and then follow them? Probably not.
Yeah. No. You piss somebody off, they're not going to care what you have to say, even if you're right.
Or if you decide that you want to do what they told you, they're not going to want to work with you because you're already pissed off.
Yeah, out of spite. I actually started doing the carnivore diet 6 months into keto. So I was doing keto for 6 months, extremely strict, never cheated on it. And I got to a point where I was thinking, how do I get more shredded than this? I basically hit that point where I think, a body fat set point, and my gym performance wasn't getting better. My hunger was starting to increase, and I wasn't as lean as I wanted to be. And I knew there was another level. I know that it's possible to do. So I started carnivore. This is now last June, I think it was. So last June. So it's been a little over a year and a half now. And I started the carnivore diet. This is actually...
Where did you hear of carnivore? How did you find out about it?
I heard of carnivore just from Googling zero carb diets. And then I learned about there's a whole community of people. There's Zero Carb Zen and Principia Carnivora and all these different Facebook groups and websites. So this was actually Sean Baker hadn't even done his first month yet. And I remember when he started posting about this, and there was this doctor, and he was going to try 1 month of doing carnivore and see how he felt. So I remember when that started to take off.
I'm a pro.
No, I was kind of starting just at about the same time that he did. So now I basically haven't left the diet. I'll have my cheats every now and then, as Chelsea behind the camera can attest to. But basically, that is my 95% of the time diet. And pretty much what it looks like for me now, I'll tell people what works for me to maintain a very low body fat, very athletic sort of physique, is red meat based. So it's mostly beef. And then I also throw in some fish. I'll do some poultry. I do some low-fat fermented dairy. I do actually watch the fat content of my diet. If I do overeat fat, I do start to put on body fat. So I'll do maybe some low-fat cottage cheese or Greek yogurt. And I also supplement in certain ways with collagen. So I take a collagen supplement because I'm not super into making a bunch of bone this and that and glycine. So I think those amino acids are really important.
People that make bone broth, it's like, don't you have anything better to do? They make their own and it takes 10 hours and stuff.
I don't knock them for it. I mean, especially if it tastes good.
I'm just saying, man, that takes forever.
That's how I feel about it. And I've done that a few times with the crock pot, and you put it in a mason jar and you store it and all that kind of stuff. I'm just and then if you're going to buy bone broth at the store, if it's quality, you're going to be putting a good amount of money.
What's funny and it's ironic is people are like, oh man, I would get bored of eating that every day. But every time you've come over so far, I've been cooking food in a different way. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've noticed that, but it seems like every time you come over, like now I'm sous videing 2 steaks, right?
Yeah.
And sous vide is
You're
cooked.
grilling burgers last time.
Yeah,
and,
grilling burgers, and I cook on my infrared grill, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have all different kinds of meats, all different kinds of ways of cooking it.
Yeah.
All different things, and it just always keeps me excited. Like if I get bored, I'll make a meatloaf with like pork rinds, instead of breadcrumbs, and it tastes so good.
Yeah.
That you're like, oh, this was awesome, and then you don't feel like having meatloaf for another 2-3 months. So
That's a damn good idea.
you
Pork
just-
rinds.
Oh my god, I make such good stuff that fits into a carnivore diet. The other thing you can use is Parmesan cheese crisps.
Oh,
And
yeah,
Parmesan cheese is really, really high in a bunch of amino acids and a bunch of good stuff for you. So it's like, why not? Why not have?
There's a
stuff
lot of
like
ways
that?
to do it.
I got a lot of questions off of. Well, first of all, I should say I do a lot of the same things that you do. I would say I just never track anything. I don't track my fat. I don't track any of it. But I'm actually not trying to be ripped on camera. So I think our two goals there vary a little bit. I am on camera a lot for what I do, but I'm not necessarily trying to get to a certain physique goal for it. I just want to feel good. And I have arthritis. I have 2 fake hips.
Are you sure you don't want to be ripped on camera?
I would like to be leaner. No doubt. Like if I could just get shredded and it was real easy.
I just always wonder, because whenever people say like I want to look good, or no, I want to. They always say look good, feel good, live a long time, and they sort of gloss over look good. But I feel like a lot of people do want to be ripped. And I mean, you've gotten a lot leaner doing this, too.
Yeah, I would love to look a lot better, don't get me wrong. But there's certain things that I don't think are worth it to do to get there. Like, for example, I used to take thyroid just because it burns more fat, and it makes it so that you can make more mistakes in your diet.
I get what you mean.
But it also made me really sweaty and gross feeling.
Yeah.
And I just had all these other side effects from that particular drug. I used to take metformin on a ketogenic diet. A lot of people take it. If you listen to Dr. Peter Attia, he talks about it all the time for
maybe Greenfield talks about that.
Well, maybe being like a life extension thing, but it also make me shit my pants. So I got it's like why
MCT oil.
Why have GI problems? Things like MCT. I don't use it because of that.
So I get you. If you can't stick to it, if this isn't something you can see yourself, sustainably doing for a long time, what's the point of doing it for a month to get super ripped? And then it's like, okay, I'm not really going to do that reasonably. For me, I don't track either, but I sort of have like targets. So I try to prioritize protein and ease up on fats.
Well, that's what I wanted to tell everybody. Everybody needs to prioritize their protein. That's a big deal. I think that's the biggest part of the carnivore diet, because what really changed between you and I from keto to carnivore is our muscle mass, or muscle density,
up the muscle, down the fat,
and our strength. Right? And these things that people say you can't build those on a ketogenic diet. Well, you can build them on a carnivore diet. I don't know about a ketogenic diet. There's a podcast that I like a lot called Two Keto Dudes. I listen to them all the time. And they actually, right in the beginning of their thing, they talk about keto, and they say, they basically tell you how to do it right in their intro. And in their intro, they say, for a male, you should have 100 grams of protein a day. For a female, a little bit less. And I'm like, man, that is so low. But that's what a keto, like, they're not wrong in any sense of the word. And I did that for keto, but I got skinny fat when I did that. And I just wish more people would take a look at this carnivore approach and understand that it's basically keto without getting skinny fat. And now some people can get shredded on a ketogenic diet, but I feel like that's the one downfall. So I don't think you can get as shredded as you can on something like carnivore. Yeah.
And defining a ketogenic diet, because when we talk about ketosis, in a carnivore diet, you are in ketosis. So people talk about, eating excess protein triggers gluconeogenesis in the body. Well, that is demand driven. If your body needs that extra glucose, and if you're not eating the protein, it's going to get it from skeletal muscle, which you don't want. You want to be supporting your organs, your muscles. So eating more protein is beneficial, especially if you're training.
You right there, though. You need to go back and explain that to everybody, because we have a lot of new people.
Okay.
That have no idea what you're talking about. They don't even know what ketosis is.
Okay, so if we're talking about,
back it up and have you explain it.
Ketosis is a state in the body where your hepatic glycogen, which means the sugar in your liver, is so low that your body now begins to use its own fat for fuel by converting the triglycerides into ketones. So when it does that, it creates a byproduct that the brain can use, that the body can use, that you can actually metabolize as fuel, which is ketones. It tends to be a very clean burning fuel. And this has been used in the treatment of epileptics, and it's actually very effective in the treatment of cancer, since cancer seems to thrive off of glucose. So it's used in a lot of, therapeutic ways, but a lot of people discovered that you can do this for weight loss. You lose weight when you drop the fat and you sort of moderate the protein, and you drop the carbs, you moderate the protein, and you up your fat. Now, that's great for a lot of people, but for our specific goals, yes, ketosis is awesome, but how do you put muscle on? How do you really get shredded? And that's where the carnivore diet is fantastic, because if you up your protein, but the carbs are still low, your liver glycogen is still low. You're still going to be in a lower grade level of ketosis. So the same metabolic state, but now you have that extra protein supporting your recovery, supporting your muscle glycogen, providing that glucose that your body needs. The body does have a requirement for glucose, and it's going to get it from somewhere. So it's better to provide the protein than leach it off of your own muscles. So for me, what I experienced, we can put this up in the video, but my before and after from keto to carnivore, it's strange because I actually started lifting lighter and I got more jacked. And I started doing a bunch of cardio and things like that, and I got more jacked from doing carnivore because I was simply finally supplying my body with what it needed to put muscle on. And being young and having certain genetic factors, that plays into it. I have certain things in my favor, like being 23 and like, eating enough food. But at the same time, there's a huge dietary factor that plays into how much muscle you're putting on, how much fat you're putting on, things like that. So that's kind of how the carnivore diet worked out for me.
Well, we have a lot of questions here, right?
Yeah.
And I'd love to get into them. I'd love to help people out a lot, right?
Let's do it.
So the way that we're going to do this is I have all these questions here on my phone. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you a question.
Okay.
I'll have you answer it, hopefully in like a minute, and then
okay.
I'll answer it in like a minute, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Good luck to us doing this in a minute.
I know, but let's just try.
Yeah. Okay.
So if somebody wanted to start a carnivore diet, some of them we might just say, "Hey, I agree," move on, right? So I might just agree with you and move on to make it easy. How would you suggest that people start a carnivore diet? Should they start it cold turkey and throw out everything in their house and just start? Should they start a keto diet first? Should they try something different? Should they try Weight Watchers first? I mean, how do you dive into a carnivore diet? What's the way to go?
I would say the first thing, you can go into it cold turkey, but do some research. If you're coming from a plant-based background, do some research about enzymes, because you may need to supplement certain enzymes for your digestion. But if you're coming from a regular diet, then all you need to be eating is meat when you start out. You want to do mostly red meat, so ruminant meat. That tends to be the most nutrient dense. That provides your body an amazing spectrum of nutrients, especially B vitamins and essential things like heme iron. So start with red meat. That should be the majority of your diet. Then you can throw in poultry and you can throw in fish. And then once you have that base with just meat, and don't restrict your fat, don't restrict how much you're eating, don't restrict anything. Make sure you're eating to satiety when you're hungry, because that's going to support your body as it goes through this change into getting into ketosis and cutting the plants. Now, once you've done that for a while, then I would say throw in some eggs, because egg yolks are extremely nutrient dense. So try some eggs. If you're doing well with eggs, great. And then maybe you can try some dairy on top of that. Not any dairy, not, milk, things like that, but make sure that it's still low-carb dairy. So you can do some hard cheeses. You can do cottage cheese, maybe some Greek yogurt, and see how you do on that. Not everybody does well with dairy. That's how I would say to start it.
Overall, what we're really concerned with here is carbohydrates. And there's no carbohydrates in meat, and there's very little carbohydrates in most dairy. Mm-hmm. Milk has some sugar in it. But I would say the same exact things. The only thing I might add, which you didn't add just because you didn't specify this, is I would say that it's probably easier for most people to start on a new day. So, and I would say most people, they always, what's the excuse? Starting on Monday. I'm starting on Monday. Monday's a good time to start, but now it's football season, so Sunday's a good time to start because it's pretty easy to eat a bunch of meat and watch football. Like that, that's kind of fun too. So just pick a day. It doesn't matter like what day it is, but like I'm going to start on this day, right? And the day before, you want to load up on a bunch of meat. Make sure you have it in your fridge and whatever. And I'd say buy some ground beef. That's always easy, right? Mm-hmm. Ground bison's usually pretty good. A lot of people like that. Mm-hmm. There's all sorts of stuff. And I would say just start with just the meat.
Yeah.
And then after 2 weeks, this is what I did, and people can choose to do this any other way. I have a lot of autoimmune issues, so I do have issues with plants.
Yeah.
But I found that if I add in some onions, I like those. I like the way they taste. They have a lot of anti-inflammatory properties to them. So when I make a burger, sometimes I'll put some chopped onions on it.
Yeah.
And I don't really have any problem with that. It doesn't seem to affect me. But I wouldn't do it right away because I do think that people need to go through this a little bit of like an initiation period.
Just see what your baseline is.
And my suggestion would be, the same with yours with the enzymes, but also what about our electrolytes, right? That's usually the number one problem that people have. So I say, it's a good idea to probably just add in some bone broth.
Yeah.
I like kettle and fire. That's another question that we get is, if you drink bone broth, which one do you drink? I usually drink kettle and fire. It's pretty low carbohydrate, but make sure that you check your carbs on your bone broth, because some of these, I got a bone broth from Costco and it was a big gallon thing, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. And it was like miso bone broth, like whatever. It was like some soup mix, right? I thought it was going to be great. I get home and it's got soy in it.
Yeah.
And wheat. And I'm like,
yeah.
Who did this to me? I literally took, a gallon of bone broth and threw it right in the trash.
But isn't that what miso is? Miso's fermented soy or something like that?
I don't know. It was a miso. I thought it was like a miso flavored or something.
Oh, okay.
It was labeled like really weird.
But it was just soy juice.
It just said, all I saw was bone broth on the label, and I bought it. And I didn't see, this is what I'm telling people to avoid. I didn't check the label. I was stupid. This was actually when I first started doing keto, also like back. And so I ended up throwing it out because I didn't want it to have soy in it. So, but yeah, electrolytes are a big deal in the beginning. A lot of people will say, I got keto flu and I got really sick. It's not a flu. It's not a sickness. It's just an electrolyte imbalance. And the way that we get those electrolytes back in balance is either take some sort of electrolyte supplements like Keto Vitals. That's a great company. There's some other companies that make some electrolyte mixes like UCAN. But it's really easy just to buy Redmond sea salt and salt your food.
Add some salt in there.
Yeah, just add a bunch of salt. And I use the Redmond sea salt because it's from an ancient seabed, which I don't know if it really is. I haven't checked. I trust them. They're a good company.
Sounds cool.
And no, it doesn't have a lot of the plastics and other things that are
dextrose and
a lot of these sea salts could be contaminated because the waters are so bad in some of the other oceans, right? So that's another thing to check for. So I use Redmond Real Salt, it's called. That's the one that I prefer, and I would say that everybody should get that.
Yeah.
What can people eat? What's on the plan and what's off the plan?
For me, what's on my plan usually is I'm doing steak or ground beef, and then I'm doing some fish on the side. So I might be doing tuna, sardines, salmon, things like that. And then I'm adding in chicken. I might add in bacon sometimes. And then I'm also adding in cottage cheese and Greek yogurt. Okay. So that's pretty much my basic plan.
Do you consider cottage cheese and Greek yogurt to be carnivore, or do you consider it to be, kind of carnivore?
I would say kind of carnivore. So is it contributing to my goals? Is it helping me? Yes, because I don't have any issues with dairy. It's high protein. It's low carb. The fat's moderated. So yes, it totally
shouldn't be scared of dairy. If you listen to Lane Norton, he'll tell you that according to all the studies that he's looked at, that the people that eat dairy seem to live a little bit longer, and they seem to be a little bit leaner. Now, most of these are epidemiological studies, which a lot of people say we should throw out, but there is some valid, information behind a lot of these. So I don't see any reason to kick dairy off the team. I actually really like it. Yeah. I just actually ate some cheese while we were sitting there. But just like anything, don't overdo it. Like, don't make dairy the center of your diet.
That should be the staple of it.
Make the red meat the center of the diet.
Yeah, so with dairy, I think a lot of people think that they have intolerances to dairy, they're lactose intolerant. A lot of people haven't experienced what they feel like without grains, without sugars, without refined carbohydrates, without a bunch of inflammatory foods and a ton of fiber in their colon. So they've never experienced digestion without that, and with like a nice remission of any autoimmune symptoms. So once you do this like meat-only diet, try dairy again. And then if you do actually have an issue with lactose, that's why fermented dairy is great. So cheese, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, because the lactose in that actually ferments, and then it becomes, I think it just becomes straight up glucose. So it's just straight up sugar after that, and a lot of people don't have as much trouble with fermented dairy.
I have a pretty good rule. It should be rule number 1 of carnivore. And it should be like, if you have to ask, it's not on the diet. I mean, that should seriously be the first rule of carnivore. Like Fight Club, you know?
Yeah.
Don't talk about it, but it should be like, seriously, if you have to ask, no, you can't have it.
Yeah.
Because that's what most people want to do, is like, they want to be able to like
sneak everything in there.
Sneak something in. Well, can I have avocados? No. You can't have avocados on a carnivore diet.
Yeah.
Can you have avocados on a modified carnivore diet? Absolutely. I think that the first rule of the carnivore diet should be something along the lines like, a lot of people ask you, what can I eat? What can I have? And it seems like they're trying to get away from, try to get away with something.
Yeah.
And it really should be like, if I have to ask, no, it's not on the diet.
Yeah.
You know? If you have to ask, it's not on the diet, because the diet really consists of red meat and water. That's what it really is. And what I found, the more I go towards red meat and water, the more that I really focus on that being my diet, what I eat, the better the results are.
Yeah.
Anything that I do around that brings me further away from my results.
Yeah, same.
I think I would be shredded to the bone if I could take, the next even 30 days and just do red meat and water. The people like Steve, the guy that I told you got those crazy results, that's all he's doing. He's got a little more will. Believe it or not, a guy that's 400 pounds had more willpower than me, because look at what he did.
He had a
to what
strong
I did.
reason, though.
It actually, like, he inspired me. Like, now I'm fired up. I'm like, I'm going to get that guy.
Yeah.
You'll see, Steve. I'm coming out. I'm gunning for you now. But that's kind of what it turns into. It's like we inspire, each other, and I think that's great. But, yeah, I mean, he did it really, really strict. He didn't...
I'll say about that, I completely agree. Every time I've ever done just red meat and water, I just get ridiculously lean. So recently, we had the carnivore meetup, which we had a couple weeks ago. We met, all the different carnivore people. We were there. Sean Baker was there. And that really inspired me. Let me just focus in again on just red meat, water. And I did that. And, we had this little photo shoot that Chelsea and I were doing in Texas. And by the time we got to that photo shoot, I must have dropped, I don't know how much fat, but it looked like I was juicing. Like, it looked unnatural. It looked like that Rambo type physique. And I had dropped so much fat, but then after I did that, I was like, to hell with it. Let me add back in my cottage cheese and whatever. Yeah. So I know that whenever I want that sort of physique...
So now you're all fluffy on cottage cheese?
Basically. No, I feel like I maintain a pretty solid physique with those things, but the more I focus in on red meat and water, that is the best cutting protocol for me. It's ridiculous how well it works.
I found it, like, even just a couple days of it, you just start really leaning out.
Yeah.
So I'm actually gearing up to do that pretty soon. I don't know. I hate putting dates on things. Like, I hate saying like, oh, I'm going to do, because like nothing.
Everyone's going to point fingers at you.
Well, nothing changes, right? Like, so Mark always says, when people say, my brother Mark, he always said, when people say, oh, I'm going to start on Monday. It's like, oh, really? Yeah, Monday, everything's going to be really different than it is here on Saturday, right? So it's like, I'm going to do that. I just haven't picked a time. I want to pick a time where I know I'm like at home, not going to be traveling, and can just really focus in on it.
Yeah.
And then, hopefully that becomes just a pattern that I can do it every day. I think Dr. Baker pretty much does pretty close to red meat and water, and there's not a whole lot else in there at all. I'm pretty close to that, but I just know that it's just like, I swear to God, it's only a matter of a couple hundred calories a day that's keeping me from getting to where I want to get. But I still know that is the issue. The issue is, just be stricter. There is no other issue. There's nothing to add in or take away. It's just that issue of just being that compliant to it.
That's a really good point to bring up. So in this community that we're in, whether it's keto or carnivore or just the nutrition community as a whole, everybody wants to find the most perfect approach. And I think the idea is that that's going to make your life easier. But at the end of the day, if you can't follow through and execute, if you can't just say, this is my plan and I'm going to stick with it, it doesn't matter how perfect your plan is. You're never going to get the results, because somebody could give you God's gift to diet and, hey, this is what you do, and it'll get you the most ripped of any human being ever. But if you can't follow through with it, it doesn't matter. So I think compliance and execution and working on your willpower muscle, just the ability to say, this is my plan, this is what I'm going to do, and then follow through with it. And even if it starts to suck, still follow through with it, so that when you're done with it, you can say, okay, that didn't work for me, I'm going to create a new plan, and just stick with it every time. Like, I used to have an issue where I'd set a plan for myself, and then halfway through, if I wasn't liking the way it was going or I was having a bad day, I was like, to hell with it, I'm going to make a new plan.
Yeah.
And it's like, no. You set the plan for a reason, gather data when you're done, and then change it going forward. But don't keep jumping off every plan that you're trying to make. So that's important for people. Like, we're giving you this basic carnivore diet here where it's eat red meat, drink water, salt your foods, have some bone broth.
We're telling you what works. And then, so don't take what we're telling you that works, completely shift it to your own liking,
and then say it didn't work.
And then say it didn't work. Yeah,
those guys suck. I tried that.
How many times a day do you eat?
I try to eat 2 times a day. Some days I'll eat as few as once a day. Sometimes I'll eat as much as 3 times a day. But I usually eat lighter in the beginning of the day and bigger at night. And that works really well for me in terms of productivity and energy.
Very similar on that route.
Yeah.
I usually skip breakfast.
Always,
I usually do like some sort of like intermittent fasting kind of.
Same.
Intermittent fasting just means that you're picking a time period to eat in. So normally, like, if you got up at 8 o'clock in the morning, people get up, they eat breakfast, but I'll skip breakfast and I'll go to like maybe like 11 or 12 and I'll start eating then, and I'll eat from like noon until 7 or 8 at night usually, something like that. Some days I hold it off until like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Though. It just sort of depends on the day or, whatever. I think adding in intermittent fasting along with carnivore diet's great, but I don't think it's necessary.
It's not.
I've done it the other way too. Like I've gotten up some days, I'm just starving. Like some days I like to eat, especially after like a big lifting day, big deadlift day or something. I'll come in, I'll come home from the gym starving, just like ready to eat. Yeah. And I'll tear into like a bunch of eggs and bacon and whatever. I'll just cook up a really big, breakfast and I'll eat that. But usually what happens is if I load up on calories in the beginning of the day, then I'm not hungry at night. So it all balances itself out. Like some days I'm going to eat a big breakfast. Some days I'm going to eat a big dinner. Some days I'm just not hungry. Yeah. Like last night I got home from Sacramento and I realized that when I was going to bed that I didn't eat anything since the morning. Since before I got on the plane to come back. Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even really eat anything. But it didn't matter because I wasn't hungry, right? So don't eat. Take those wins when you get them. Yeah. Anytime you get a win, like a free win, and you're not hungry,
go with it. Go with it. Yeah, save the battles for the tough days. So I'm completely on board with that. I think if your goal is to be as strong as possible or as buff as possible and you want to be as huge as you can be, intermittent fasting might not work in your favor. But if this is just a lifestyle for you and you want to be healthy, or let's say you want to get really lean, one of my favorite things to do is to wait as long as I can into the day until I'm truly hungry. So I don't eat because it's a set meal time or because this is my eating window, but it's like a challenge. I just challenge myself, how long can I go until I actually have to eat? Yeah. And then I'll eat.
My rule of thumb is like no suffering. I don't want to suffer. I've done so many diets where I've suffered, like starved.
And, mine is pure suffering.
Yeah. Mine has, I don't suffer. I don't let myself suffer. I don't allow myself to be hungry. I don't allow myself to struggle with it. Even in the gym, it's like I gotta want to be there and gotta want to do it. Otherwise, I just say no, I'm not going to do it. So yeah, now could I get better results with a little bit of suffering? Probably. Like I said, could I get to the just red meat and water with a little bit of suffering? Of course.
But this is a lifestyle.
Yeah, I actually look at it as a long thing. Like, I changed my life around from being a drug addict and an alcoholic. That didn't happen overnight. The becoming of a drug addict and alcoholic doesn't happen overnight, and then the unraveling of it doesn't happen overnight. Yeah, and it's the same with everything else, right? Like, so if I want to do this diet for a long period of time,
you got to play the long game.
I feel like I'm playing. That's kind of what I'm just doing, playing the long game. I cheat if I want to because I know that I'm not on this for a specific amount of time. Now, there's things that can change that drastically. If I decided that I wanted to go on a bodybuilding show, then all bets are off. Like everything that I just said is off, right? I have to focus for that amount of time.
You have to do what it takes to achieve that.
Exactly, and I would do that.
I one of my things is I won't go to sleep hungry. So that's just, I had done that so many times when I was vegan, when I was doing, a clean eating approach with the brown rice and chicken and stuff like that. I went to bed hungry so many times and I thought, well, I'm in a deficit. This is what I have to do. I won't do that anymore. So I don't mind being hungry during the day sometimes. Like if I'm focused and I'm working and I have things to do, it's fine. I'm totally cool with being a little bit hungry, but I will not ever go to sleep hungry.
Yeah.
You know, that's just my thing. If I feel slightly hungry, I'm going to go eat more.
What's a normal day look like for you? Like, what's your everyday eating? Which is a little bit what we just answered, but
yeah. So I'll be completely honest about what a typical day of eating looks like for me. So I'll push the fast a long time, and then the first thing that I'll probably have when I'm like, okay, I think it's time to eat, and maybe it's 2-3 p.m., I'll have some sort of fermented dairy. So I might have some Greek yogurt or cottage cheese. I like to do this some collagen protein. And, you know, the collagen, you can get that from bone broth, but I like to take that supplement. And then I'll also have some fish for the omega-3s. And that's that first meal.
Who makes
it's
a
very
good
light.
collagen protein? What do you use?
I use the hydrolyzed collagen from, what the hell is it called? Damn, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a hydrolyzed collagen supplement.
I like Mark Sisson's collagen is good.
He's
I
got
use that
fantastic
one.
products.
I like Perfect Keto. And I'm just mentioning brands not to promote them. It's just like everybody asks, well, which one? You know, so I'm like, this is the one that I use. I think Perfect Keto tastes good, and I think Mark Sisson's
the name of that?
tastes good. There's another company out of Austin called Wild Foods. And Wild Foods makes a lot of great products, cheap, you know, kind of inexpensive. And
Do the hydrolyzed one, though, because if you don't, then it just clumps up, and you got to
I think
put it in a blender.
Most of them I have must be hydrolyzed because they mix up really easy.
Yeah. That makes it a lot easier. So that's my first meal. It's real light. It's pretty much fish, a bit of fermented dairy, and that collagen protein. And then at night is usually where I go heavy. So I'll do some sort of red meat. So it's usually steak or ground beef. And then I'll include either eggs or some beef liver or something nutrient dense like that. But it's usually red meat and then eggs.
And how much of that
liver.
are you eating?
Let's see. I'll usually eat maybe about 2 pounds of red meat. It's quite a bit of red meat.
One sitting.
Yeah, in one sitting. And then I'll have maybe 3 or 4 eggs. And then once a week, I like to have 4 ounces of beef liver. So one thing we should talk about is on this diet, beef liver.
Density, right?
Yeah, beef liver is such a nutrient-dense food, especially in all of the vitamins that people are traditionally deficient in. So it's got a lot of preformed vitamin A, and it's got some vitamin D, and it's got a whole spectrum of B vitamins. So liver is extremely nutrient-dense, and in ancestral sort of carnivore diets, these cultures that ate mostly animals, they would be eating a lot of different organ meats. So that's probably the best one to incorporate. And I try to do that once a week, usually about 4 ounces of calf liver. And I just grab that from Sprouts, and it's frozen.
How's that taste?
So if you eat it pretty soon and you don't leave it in the fridge for a long time, it tastes great. I like to do it sort of like very rare in the middle and just sear the outsides of it. Some people, like the more you cook it, the more it gets that chalky taste, and you can really taste it. It tastes like crap. And then if you leave it in the fridge for too long, it just tastes disgusting. So I've tossed a lot of liver that I've tried to make, but I just left it in there for too long.
Tossing liver sounds gross.
Yeah. But yeah, so as long as you just cook it kind of fresh. What's a typical day of eating look like for you?
Mine, varies a little bit, but mainly what I do is I usually go to I usually do like a 2 steak a day guy, you know, and it sort of just depends because a lot of it just depends on like what I have around or what I feel like eating. So if I feel like usually during the week I'm pumped up about eating steak.
Yeah.
And like all through the week I'll keep going to Costco and buy and I buy, expensive steaks. I like good steak, and I'm not going to lie about it. I buy the prime meat because I really like it. Yeah. And I'll buy that, and that's kind of like my my vice. You know what I mean? Like I used to spend money on drugs. I used to spend money on stupid shit. Now I spend it on steak because I really like it. And so
same, that's my vice too.
Yeah, it's like, I could go to Costco and buy the gigantic packs, and that's what I recommend for people. Like if you have a problem where you can't afford it, like you have to eat, right? So you just eat go to Costco. They have plenty of great, cheaper meats, and it's like literally almost just as good, Yeah. I might be stupid. I might be getting ripped off paying more money for Prime when it might not be that much different, right? But, that's what I like. So that's what I eat. And then, but a lot of times I eat like the cheapest ground beef that you can find from like Ralph's or whatever grocery store you go to.
Yeah.
Because the cheapest ground beef is what? 73% fat.
Yeah.
27% protein. So I like that beef that's like really fatty, really, whatever. And I eat that ground beef usually with, and I also, there's another company called Mishima Reserve. They make like Wagyu beef, which is really fatty.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I like that. I also eat not a lot of eggs. I really cut down on eggs since they were, I've heard a lot of people talking about like, well, you might have a problem with eggs, right? So there might be an allergic issue
and all that.
with eggs. And so I just decided to cut them out for a while. And when I cut them out, I felt better. I felt stronger, so I don't eat them that often, but I don't think that they're bad at all. I
don't know what the deal is with eggs. So I just minimize them, just
that's kind
to
of
be
like,
safe.
I'm kind of like in the same zone. Like there's no fear of eating eggs. Like, but I definitely do have this little thing where I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have too many eggs. The same thing I do with dairy. Maybe I shouldn't have too much dairy.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but those are things that like, hey, if those can cause an issue, I guess the why is it gets back to like we were just talking about, are better results from red meat and water. So like getting rid of those things brings us
the closer you can get to that ratio,
closer
the
to
better.
the cow. Yeah.
Yeah. So one interesting thing about eggs is people seem to have issues with the egg whites. Egg yolks tend to be extremely nutrient dense.
It's the protein in the egg whites.
It's the egg whites, and the biotin is supposed to bind the absorption of who the hell knows, but it's I think that's where most people get issues. So if you want to do eggs, I know some people that do carnivore just have egg yolks just for the nutrients in it, and they completely avoid the egg whites. If you trust your eggs and you know that it's well sourced,
that's a good idea too.
That's something that I tried for quite a while, and then I just got sick of drinking
I used to when I first started doing keto, I would make egg yolk omelets, and I would make egg yolk omelets with avocados, butter, and bacon in them. They're amazing.
I should throw those into my collagen protein shakes.
Oh,
just
man.
throw some egg yolks in there.
Yeah, egg yolks are great, so I use those all the time.
Yeah.
What do you tell people if they're on a budget? I tell people to go to Costco and load up on everything, eggs, meat, whatever. You can get a lot of stuff at Costco, but there's also just a lot of like cheap meat places out there.
I do Sprouts actually a lot. So Sprouts a lot of the time will sell ground beef for $3.99 a pound, which is fantastic. You know?
And Sprouts is a pretty high end kind of store too. It's not.
Yeah, well, Sprouts is like the cheaper Whole Foods, so it's not as crazy, but it's got some really good options. That's where I get my beef liver from. That's where I get a lot of my ground beef from.
Even though just like walking to one of these stores like Food for Less, right?
Yeah,
They always have ground beef on sale. They always have like these, so I think the budget thing isn't as much of an issue as people make it to be. And then like, honestly, to the people that are budget, like, saying I can't do it, I'm on a budget. What do what's your Starbucks spend per week?
Yeah.
What are you spending on bullshit? And
Yeah.
take what you're spending on bullshit and spend it on your food.
Set the budget and say, okay, this is how much I have every week to spend on food, and figure out what you're actually spending it on. Cut all of the crap and devote all of that money into, cheap steaks, red meat. And, you really don't need to be spending any money on beverages. Just drink water. And I think most people will find that this diet is completely doable.
Can you have a cheat meal or a cheat day?
That's a tricky question. I would say for people that are starting it, no. Just don't do any cheat days. Don't try to incorporate stuff. Don't
Get
try
the
to
thought out of your mind right now.
Yeah, just establish a habit. If you're doing this thing, so now I'm like a year and a half into it, I have cheat days. Like, we're about to head to Paris, and I'm definitely going to have a croissant. So, like, I'll have those, but it's because I know that I have the willpower to the next day when I wake up, I'm back on the diet. So this is once every week or every 2 weeks. Sure, I'll have something. I would say don't turn it into a whole cheat day where you just lose your mind.
Are you going to post that croissant when you eat it?
I might as well.
I think you kind of have to.
I think it would just confuse people, though. It would raise more questions than it's worth.
Croissantivore.
Croissantivore?
Yeah,
that actually sounds kind of cool.
Croissantivore.
Sounds like a dinosaur. But I think, when you're starting it out, just don't do any of that stuff. Just establish the habit and get healthy first.
The thing that's amazing is your taste buds change.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, all those cravings just go away. They just go.
Just hide the Zevia real quick.
We've been drinking. I drink Zevia all the time, And I'll tell you, like, it's kind of like my one vice, right? But I kind of know that nothing in Zevia can harm me.
Yeah.
So if I go Zevia meat, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But it's pretty easy to go, like, you're having a Zevia. It's pretty easy to go from that to, like, grabbing a protein bar or something else sweet, right? So you have to be smart about these things. And if you do have something that's artificially sweetened, because that is artificially sweetened, even though it's stevia, it's sweetened. I should say it's not artificially sweetened, but it's sweetened.
Yeah.
Right. It's just sweetened with a non-sugar.
Yeah.
That's not going to raise our blood glucose and all that stuff, but it still is going to, in our mind,
it's going to trigger that dopamine, which might make you crave stuff.
And the other reason why I tell people to maybe limit dairy is dairy's addictive too.
Yeah,
dairy's an opioid.
morphine.
Yeah, it's an opioid, and it works on your brain, and it makes you go back to the refrigerator just like sugar does. So
yeah.
I think that's an important thing. And I tell people, like, if you cheat. So I always tell this story because I think it's funny. I was trying to do keto with my girlfriend at the time, Lauren, and we were 3 days in. And I was like, I got to go get gas. Like, when do you ever have to go get gas as like an errand?
Yeah.
Like, it's not an errand. Like,
It's
you
just
go
on the
get
way.
gas on the way to somewhere, right?
Yeah, what'd you really have in mind?
I went to the gas station and I bought 2 packs of Starbursts.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted candy. I was so hungry. I was like, I'm starving. I'm eating all this keto stuff. And I went and I got these 2 packets of Starbursts, and I'm sitting in my car eating them. I'm like thinking, like, I am so fat. What am I doing? Like, why? Like, this is so
Did you
wrong.
not tell her?
I ended up telling her after because I felt so bad.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is so stupid. I don't even know why I cared. I should have just went out and bought them and ate them right in front of you.
Yeah.
Because then the shame of eating them in front of her probably would have even been worse, right? But we all have experiences where we're like, hey man, I screwed up. I wasn't thinking. I was in the moment. I had to do it. For me, that's what it was. Like, I thought I needed that, and then after doing that, I'm like, that was so fat. That was so bad. Like, my dad said this the other day. I thought it was brilliant. My dad said, I've been gymless for 70 years. Gymless. I've had no gym to go to. And he's like, now every time I go, I don't get mad at myself because I didn't lift for 70 years. And he's like, but if I don't go, he's like, I don't feel right anymore. Like, I feel like, he goes, I just feel like I'm only cheating myself, and that for 70 years I cheated myself out of this, and that every day I have to value it. Yeah. And I thought that was awesome. It was like he realized, and he said, I realized that with the diet too. So he realized that the diet, the only thing that you're cheating is yourself. Yeah. You're not cheating anybody else. Nobody else cares that you cheated on your diet. The world doesn't care. Instagram doesn't care. They might call you out on it or whatever, but they really don't care. Yeah. So the only one that really cares is yourself. So just remember that. You're only cheating yourself.
One quick tip about cheats is just minimize it. If you end up cheating, don't turn it into a whole day. Don't lose your mind with it. Eat it, and then just the next day, go back on the diet and pick yourself back up.
And that was the next question we got. What do I do if I screw up? Get back on the horse. That's pretty easy. Yeah. Should I count calories or track my food?
When you're starting, no. And honestly, at any point,
Probably no.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
If you're eating the right foods, your body's not going to just bloat you up and you're going to end up fat eating red meat. Like, you're going to be okay.
I've had meals where I've eaten 3,000 calories, and I have meals where I've eaten 100 calories. Yeah. So it goes back and forth. I don't think it matters.
That's a really good point. So in terms of like your body's true hunger signals, when you're not on this blood sugar roller coaster that comes with consistently eating carbohydrates and you're glucose dependent, when you're actually adapted to this state of ketosis and you're eating really nutrient dense, high protein foods like red meat, you're going to get really in touch with your true hunger. So you're going to be eating and you'll actually know when you're full, and you won't, it's tough to overeat steak. You can't force yourself to just keep eating, but if somebody gives you ice cream, you always have room. You always have room for an extra donut. But with steak, that's just not the case. So the same thing here. I've had days where I'll eat, maybe close to 3,500 or 4,000 calories of red meat. I used to destroy it when I was starting. And then I'll have days where I might be as low as about 1,400 calories. If I'm just eating one meal and I have a steak, and then I'm like, I think I'm good. I might be really low that day, but your body knows what it's doing. It gives you these hunger signals for a reason, and you can trust it if you're eating right.
What about coffee? Can you drink coffee?
What's your take on that?
My take is sometimes. It depends. I think that people need to watch their caffeine intake, just like anything else. Caffeine raises cortisol. So I drink coffee on and off. I actually like coffee, so I have a Starbucks right across the street. That's kind of tough. So I like decaf too. I'll have like a decaf coffee just to have a coffee. Sometimes like I won't be hungry, but I'll just want something to do. So I'll go in and get just like a drip coffee, decaf, whatever, and I'll walk around the neighborhood and drink that, but if I want to get really fired up, I'll have like a nitro cold brew, you know, that thing. Right now I'm sort of like off coffee. Like I'll have a decaf here and there, but I used to be a huge coffee fan, like a huge, like coffee all day, every day. I just find that you get in this cycle where you're revving yourself up and then you're crashing, revving yourself up and then you're crashing. The more you can avoid those kind of things in your life in general and be more monotone, across the whole board. I'm talking like with everything, with like the way you consume alcohol, the way you consume coffee, the way you're not going all these crazy spikes, right?
Just stay consistent.
You're kind of more like this, right? Yeah, like if you do have a coffee, you had a decaf and it just went like that, rather than like these, right? So like I think that the more consistently we can stay across the board, the more we get more towards what the carnivore diet wants us to be, which is like in balance, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you have to have coffee in the morning, there's a problem, a huge problem that no diet is going to be able to fix, and that's your sleep. And that's one big reason why I tell people try to avoid coffee, because what's it going to do? Force you to sleep better. So that's my take on it. Now, I do drink it once in a while when I want it or when I feel tired, but I try to avoid it otherwise. Yeah. What about you?
I would just say I agree to that. See, I'm still way behind on that. I love coffee, but I totally agree. Yeah, honestly, I have no good advice to give on that. I'm the wrong guy. I love coffee.
But okay, so let's talk to the audience about this. So I think that's important. You love coffee, but you're thin. You're pretty ripped. You're not. So when my cortisol levels goes up, what happens? It helps me hold on to belly fat.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I need. That's the only place I have fat on my body. You don't really have that. So I think like coffee's probably more okay for you than it would be for me, if that makes any sense.
No, but see, I still agree with what you're saying about you don't want to get too high, you don't want to get too low, because what I notice with me with coffee is I'll have a day where I'm just like going through the roof and I'm so productive and I'm just laser focused. And then the next day it's like I just feel like crap and I'm tired. And it's like, so you're always doing this, which I don't think is really ever good, but it's so ingrained in my morning routine, like the smell of it and drinking it and sitting down doing my work,
All you got to do is listen to Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll tell you, you got up and what did you do? First thing, you walked over and you grabbed a big cup of coffee because you just slept 8 fucking hours.
Yeah.
You're tired?
Yeah.
What are you tired from? Why do you need, if you listen to Ultimate Warrior, why do we need coffee in the morning? It's kind of stupid. Yeah. We should drink coffee like in the middle of the day. It seems like more than drinking in the morning. But like everybody's habit is like, I gotta get up. I gotta wake up. I gotta wake up, right? And as my cortisol levels they're at their highest and they're gonna drop, I'm gonna just dump a bunch more on.
Yeah, boost them even more.
You just like coffee, like the taste of it?
I love the taste of it.
And do you drink it black or do you drink it?
I drink it black.
Yeah. So I would say, why not just drink decaf? And so here's the thing. The placebo effect is so damn strong that I drink decaf, but in my mind, I don't think it's decaf because I actually order on my Starbucks app because the Starbucks right across the street. Yeah. So I don't think it's decaf. Yeah. I don't remember if I ordered decaf or not. Yeah. Like, honestly, it's that stupid where I'm like, I'll just click it in the morning. I'll go get the coffee. And I know that I ordered decaf, but in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's my morning coffee. Yeah. It's going to fire me up. I'm going to go to the gym and train. And I feel like
you don't take any pre-workouts or anything?
No, nothing. I do take Kratom. And Kratom really helps me a lot with but I take that for pain. Yeah. But that really sort of gets that shifts my focus. That gets me going. I don't know what effect that has on cortisol, but we just got a $3.5 million grant at the University of Florida for Kratom research. So we will know what it does to cortisol and we'll know what it does for everything else. So that's exciting too. One of the major things that I get confronted with all the time is that you can't lift heavy without carbs. You can't train hard without carbs. I don't have any problem with it. I don't even notice it.
Yeah.
Do you?
I don't have any problem with it either, and I think that's a function of eating enough protein. Because we were talking about gluconeogenesis earlier, but the body can replenish muscle glycogen with protein. So your body can create that glucose, which is going to replenish your muscle glycogen. So you don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it. An interesting thing is Arnold didn't have a problem with it. So these golden era bodybuilders.
If Arnold didn't have a problem with it, then nobody should.
Then do whatever the hell he said. So these golden era bodybuilders in the 1970s, so this is a physique when they had the V-taper, the shoulders, wide upper body. They came in at the waist. Most people agree it's a really good looking physique. So these guys, if you listen to what Rick Drayson said and what Arnold says in his book about the diet they used to eat, it was pretty much what we're doing. High protein, low carb, basically a carnivore diet. And then occasionally, once a week they'd have a cheat day. But they would be eating beef, eggs, some cottage cheese. They'd be eating, maybe some protein shakes, stuff like that. And they stuck to this all the time. They were training, a good 5 days a week, intense. Arnold would be lifting, I think, like 4 hours a day.
That's it. Let's just change it to the Arnivore diet.
The Arnivore diet?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
The Arnivore diet.
Eat the steak.
Let's do it.
But yeah, so they didn't have an issue with it. And then they would have their cheat day once a week. Is that necessary? Well, maybe if you're training 4 hours a day, balls to the wall, you might want to throw in some carbs to support yourself. But I don't really think that's necessary for the majority of people.
I don't think any of those bodybuilders back then, they weren't doing any crazy carb feeds and everything. They were really hitting up the protein. It seemed like a lot.
It was high protein,
and
high fat.
And the carbohydrates were rice and potatoes. They weren't eating processed junk that we eat today. I mean, so much of the junk that we eat today is not suitable for human consumption, but it's like the main focus of our plates.
Yeah.
When I heard the protein data from, I looked it up the other day. Most people, going back to this ketogenic diet thing we were talking about before. Most people actually eat that much protein a day, 100 grams a day.
Yeah.
Like most men eat about 100 grams a day.
Yeah.
Most women eat about 70 grams of protein a day. It's just not nearly enough.
Yeah.
You need to be up over probably like 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight.
The more your food is protein diluted, so the less protein the food has in it, the more you have to eat to feel satisfied.
Well, a lot of people don't know about protein leveraging, and I know
Yeah.
that you know a lot about that, and you work with Ted Naiman a little bit. He talks about that a lot. Like every animal on the planet has a protein requirement.
A protein and nutrient requirement.
Yeah.
And
so if you don't
protein-
hit that, you're going to be hungry, right?
Yeah, and you have to overfeed yourself on carbs and fats just to get there. So basically, they have these studies that show the highest satiety diets, the ones that make people eat the lowest ad libitum calories. So that means if you just give people food and say, hey, eat as much as you want, to get people to eat the least amount of food, you go really high protein, moderate fat, low carb, which is pretty much the kind of diet we're talking about. And that's why we're saying you don't need to worry about tracking it, because ad lib, you're going to be eating less. You're just going to be more satisfied because you're satisfying your protein and nutrient requirement in a lot fewer calories. Now, if you're eating low protein foods and you're trying to moderate your protein, you're going to be hungry because your body's going to be trying to compensate. So it needs to eat more.
And also it goes back to what we were talking about, nutrient density. You
Yeah.
eat the foods that are nutrient dense, high in protein, you will not be hungry.
Yeah.
And that's really the key. What about performance? I mean, I know that you said that you don't lift as heavy on carnivore, but you lift lighter but look bigger. I lift way heavier. I've put 150 pounds on my deadlift since last year.
Yeah.
So when I got out of rehab, I was really broken. I actually failed with 315 one time in the gym, coming out of rehab. Like I couldn't lift
315 deadlift?
Yeah, I couldn't lift it off the ground. That's so like I cried when I went home because I had never missed that, even when I was a little kid. Like I've never not been able to do 3 plates on the bar. I worked at it for a little bit. Last year I competed at the Super Training Classic, which was in February, coming up again in February of this year. And I was joking last year, I did a 407 deadlift, and I said I'm going to come back next year and deadlift 600. I was totally kidding around, but I'm going to try to do that now.
Dude,
I
hell
mean,
yeah.
so to people asking me like, does it work for performance? I'm like, well, I don't know. I couldn't lift, last year I lifted 405 off the ground. This year, I just did 545. I just missed a 585. But, I mean, come on, man. Like, the amount of weight that I'm able to move compared to what I was able to move, the amount of just the amount of everything. Like, I'm alive again. I feel alive again. For a while, I just felt like I was kind of, I thought it was all over. I was like, I felt like the guy in the van in Bigger, Stronger, Faster. Where it was like, I felt like I was like, man, this is done. That's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be that guy in the van saying, like, oh yeah, back in the day, I used to do this and I used to do that, But as he said,
story, man.
As he said, the sun's still shining and the game ain't over. So I think you can build muscle. I think you can perform. I don't think it's an issue. I think building muscle is more about protein. What do you think?
I agree. So you can absolutely build muscle and you can put on strength. So like I was saying, like I don't lift heavy. I barely ever really lift heavy. A lot of my stuff is higher volume and a lot of calisthenics. But so I remember going to Mark's gym earlier this year, and obviously, I did a workout with him and we're going to lift heavy. So I don't really touch heavy benching, but I had never hit 205 for 5 reps. And he says, oh, let's just give it a shot. And I hit 205 for 5, having not touched any sort of weight like that in a long time. And then recently I had gone and trained with Sean Baker and Kyle Kingsbury at On It. I don't do heavy deadlifts at all. And then they're like, oh, well, try to hit 355. And they're like, oh, you can do 315. And I was repping 315 easy. And then I hit 355. And like, those numbers aren't impressive to the majority of heavy lifters. But if you don't ever touch heavy weights and you're doing a ton of cardio and you're doing calisthenics and like pull-ups and push-ups and stuff like that, that's not bad for not even touching that kind of stuff. So
how much did Kyle do?
So they were
4 plates, 5 plates.
Yeah, they were doing 4 plates for like 3 or something like that. And then we were doing lateral jumps.
He kind of beat me when I was there.
Yeah.
But it's crazy because of this diet. So I was there a couple months ago, and he kind of he might have edged me out a little bit when we were there. But like now, I think it's just completely different. Like I've gotten so much stronger in the past. Like now, he knocked me out in 2 seconds in a fight, but I think I could beat him on deadlift now. But that's interesting because I remember like kind of being like, oh man, it feels so heavy today. But then even since that date, I think when I pulled with him, I was only pulling 4 plates. Now I pull 5 plates for the same amount of reps we were doing back then. Yeah. So I don't know. He might have progressed that much too. Yeah. Hopefully he did. We'll see. We'll see next time I see him. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see next time I see him. But I love how did you like that at On It? On It. That was fun. It's an awesome place, man. What a cool. Yeah. The environment's amazing. And the training was really, really cool. Very competitive environment. And like, you got to do your best. You're not going to say you can't do that weight. Like, you got to give it a try. So I was thinking the whole time, I was like, don't be stupid and get injured. You don't do this. This isn't your thing. They couldn't do what you do. Just be happy with what you do. And then I was like, well, whatever. Yeah. Next thing you know, you're like,
my back is curved.
Next thing you know, you got gloves on and you're sparring with Kyle.
Yeah, exactly.
What about things like, this is the last question because we have to end this at some point. Yeah, at some point. But this is the last question. I think this is important. What about fast food and just throwing away the bun? Now, on carnivore, does that count, or is that terrible nutrition advice?
It's just like with dairy. It's just like with eggs. Don't do that all the time. Yes, it counts. It works. Go have a Flying Dutchman at In-N-Out. If you're at McDonald's or Wendy's and you order just the quarter-pound beef patties, do that if you're on the road. It's a hell of a lot better than getting a full-on burger with fries. If that's the option between that and just going off the rails and eating crap, then do that. Just throw away the bun. But that shouldn't be your daily diet. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I would say that I want to say exactly what you said, but I can't really find justification for it. I don't know if, you'd have to like kind of do a study, but I've actually gone for a couple weeks at a time where I've done that a lot, and I haven't seen the results be detrimental. Yeah. So I just have to be honest with people. It's like, I think you could probably do that every day and get away with it. Now, what I think is going to sneak into your diet that you're not thinking of are things like vegetable oils and other things that are at the restaurant that can somehow get in. You know what I mean?
What sort
like
of salt are they using?
Yeah, like what are they using? What ingredients do they use? Now, I know people say, "Oh, McDonald's, it's all pink slime," and we just know that that's not the truth.
Yeah.
So, if you know the companies like In-N-Out and Five Guys, they seem to use really good beef. And I think
body.
if you really wanted to be as clean as you possibly could, just order just patties.
Yeah.
If you want to get as clean as possible, just order just patties and bring your own Primal Kitchen, Mark Sisson ketchup with you, like I do, and stuff like that. Places like Hop Dotty, which aren't fast food, which are like a burger bar, they actually use grass-fed beef in some of their burgers. So places like that are great. I think that just be sensible and be smart.
Yeah, listen to your gut on this kind of stuff. Like use your instincts. If you feel like it's screwing you up, don't do it.
McDonald's quarter pounders are never frozen. They're 100% beef, just the quarter pounder. But I don't know if it makes a difference if you buy the double cheeseburger and do the same thing. I don't know. However, I do know that it's not frozen. I know at Wendy's you can get good patties. In-N-Out you can get good patties. Five Guys you can get good patties. The Habit you can get good patties. Where are some of the other places? You've been to any other places? Fat Burger is an amazing spot. Actually, you get a Fat Burger. They're made with steer. So they're made with a different type of cow, the steer. And the Fat Burger has like a little bit of a different flavor that's really good. Yeah. So that's okay too. The problem I think that we're running into is like I haven't seen that much valid evidence that grass-fed beef is healthier than grain-fed beef. Now, I know a lot of people probably go crazy about that. Some people only eat grass-fed beef. I think it's kind of gross. I don't really like it. I don't like it nearly as much.
I had the same experience. I did Wendy's for about a month and a half once, and it was just Wendy's patties. And I contacted a few of the guys like Sean Baker and Danny Vega, and I was like, hey, am I going to like die soon or something? Because I feel fantastic. I look good. The gym's going great. But all I'm eating is Wendy's beef patties. And they're like, nope, seems to be fine as far as we can tell.
I called Dr. Baker one day and I said, Dr. Baker, I have a question. He's like, yeah, what do you got? He's all fired up. Yeah. I'm like, well, is it okay? Like, I seriously, I just feel guilty. And he's like, why? And I'm like, because I'm eating like fast food every day without the bun, like going to In-N-Out and going, oh no, it's totally fine. And I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
but
sometimes you just need to hear that.
In my head, I still have this feeling where I'm like, I should be eating beef. So then I started going to Costco more, and then I got addicted to Costco, and I got addicted to like just eating steak every day from Costco, and that got to be like too expensive. So then I had to find a happy medium, and mainly what I did to fix that was because I could actually eat In-N-Out and Five Guys all day, like every day. Yeah. So I forced myself to buy some meat to have at home, and I make burgers here too, and I do all that kind of stuff here too. And I also should tell people, like, if you do cook your own meat, don't char it, don't overcook it, don't burn it. Doing things that keep your meat so they don't char and burn are going to keep you away from cancer, hopefully. Like charring meat could be a carcinogen. Like I don't know if it is or not, but the latest studies say that there's I don't know what they call it. You might know, but there's something that happens that you form when you char meat, and it can be a carcinogen. Yeah, so I know what you're talking about. Just be smart and don't buy burnt up grizzled meat.
Yeah, it's like HCAs or something formed when you do that. But if you just think common sense. Okay, so the burnt bits of the meat, do you really think that's healthy to eat burnt meat? Obviously not. So just like, cook it in as light a manner as you can. If you're always grilling everything and you're burning the hell out of it, just stay away from that. Use your common sense with this diet.
Well, or if you do sear something, right? It only gets kind of charred. Like very little of it gets actually charred. The rest of the meat is actually like really pretty fresh. Yeah. So I think like if you sear it, as long as you're not doing it at too high of a temperature and this and that, you'll probably be okay. I think. I don't know what the studies say about smoked meats and things like that, but I usually don't eat too much smoked stuff. Mainly cook it on the grill or cook it in a pan. Yeah.
It's funny how you were saying about like feeling guilty with the fast food. After a while, like it was working so well, but I just felt like this has to end. Like you got to stop going to McDonald's and In-N-Out every time you're hungry. So I just, for whatever, I don't know, maybe it's social conditioning, but I just decided, okay, I'm going to start buying Sprouts and Costco and cooking. Maybe it's just a good habit. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, the results haven't changed. I feel the same, performance is the same. Everything's great. But it was just a weird choice.
I had a question that came in that I don't think either one of us are equipped to provide the answer to.
What is that?
Can you do this when you're pregnant?
I would look into what Kelly Hogan had to say about it.
That's what I was going to say. I don't think we're equipped.
Yeah.
But Kelly Hogan, who was on Dr. Baker's Human Performance Outliers podcast, she's had 3 kids on Carnivore. And Amber O'Hearn has had a couple of her kids on Carnivore.
We haven't had any.
We haven't had any. We're going to have one soon, though. You and I.
Pretty soon.
Yeah.
I'll have to have a cow.
But I think that you're right. Like our best advice could be to go look at what those women have done.
Go do your research. And the other great thing would be to ask a few doctors in that community what their thoughts are on that. Because if you go ask your family practitioner, they're going to tell you, what the hell are you doing? But there are some doctors that might have some good things to say about that.
Do I know it can be done? Yes. But I'm not a medical doctor, and I'm not telling somebody to go do it. So do I know it can be done? Yes. The babies were all very healthy, according to Kelly and Amber O'Hearn. Again, Kelly Hogan and Amber O'Hearn, they both have several podcasts and several things. I know Amber O'Hearn did she's done a couple of full-on presentations, and if you haven't seen her presentations, they're really fantastic presentations of like human anthropology and like where we've come from and how this carnivore diet works in a lot of people, and she does a lot of stuff with mental health. So she's awesome to listen to. And Kelly Hogan is great because she's just a normal mom who just loves doing the carnivore diet and cranked out 3 kids, doing it, and is probably one of the happiest carnivores I've ever heard.
Yeah. Lost a ton of weight. She's very lean.
Lost a ton of weight and feels great. And I think that that's really important. Speaking of losing a ton of weight, another guy hit me up today, said I weigh 600 pounds.
Wow.
Will this work for me?
Yeah.
And I hit him back and I said, like, listen, man, you need to email me. Here's my email. Here's my phone number. When I get people that are like that, that's somebody that I think needs a lot of help. And I think they need like a little bit of coaching and support. And those people I'm willing to help for free. So when it's an extreme case like that, like I want to see, can we take this guy who emailed me that's 600 pounds and do what Steve did? Our guy Steve that we talked about in the beginning of the show. Steve Slauson, I think. Steve Slauson lost like over 100 pounds in like a year. So if we can get this guy 600 and go 500 next year, 400 the next year, to see. Let's just step him down. Let's
keep following his progress and see how that happens.
And that's what I want to see out of people out there. If you guys are listening to this and you have some sort of special case or whatever, hit us up. We'd love to hear about it, and we'd love to help if we can. I think it's important that we help as many people as we can. I just have one more final question before we wrap this all up. And this question was actually asked to me by Joe Rogan first. He was the first person to ask it. But I figured since I've been asked it several more times that we would ask you, what are your shits like?
They're great. They're great. No, actually, that is so much better on this diet than any other diet I've ever tried. And when I was vegan, it was pain. It was just pain and all day and constant. So I would say that's never been an issue for me on this diet. A lot of people wonder about fiber, and fiber doesn't seem to be that critical in terms of, constipation, things like that. So that's not an issue for me on this diet.
Yeah, fiber's not essential. And when they've done studies with fiber to show, they've done studies with fiber to actually figure out people's problems or gut issues. And it seems like when they took the fiber away, that's when the gut issues went away.
Yeah.
So it seems to be abrasive to our intestines and our colons. I'm not saying that people don't need it. I'm not trying to go the other way. I'm just saying that I don't need it. I haven't needed it, and I haven't had any problems with it. Yeah. And I poop just fine. And I think also, like, let's be smart. The things that I eat that are off the diet, they're very good for your digestion. Like if I have an avocado, that's going to be like one of the things I maybe eat off the diet. What about some blueberries? That's something I'm going to eat off the diet. They are high in fiber. They're good for you, and they have plenty of other nutrients in them. So I think, like, how are you going to get fiber? If you were just doing red meat and water, I could understand the argument, but we throw in a couple little other things here and there. I think that's just enough to get us through. Yeah. And also, if you are doing red meat and water, a lot of people don't realize that collagen and connective tissue become your prebiotic fiber, basically. Yeah. That's what your gut microbiome starts eating it seems. And like we know so little about it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that so many people are making all these crazy recommendations based on gut microbiome testing. And I think we're going to see that be another fad that just kind of comes and goes. Like that gut microbiome won't even be talked about in another couple of years.
Eating specifically.
Well, people
for
are
that.
saying that's the second brain and it's this and that. And
Yeah.
the more I see about it, the more I see like we really don't know anything.
Yeah.
We haven't come up to anything conclusive in my opinion.
If we're doing this diet for a year and a half, and we feel fantastic, and our gut microbiome is supposedly starved, and we haven't had all these
I think
extremely
we would know about it.
Yeah, something would start to get worse, but everything's getting better. So that might be putting the ox before the whatever the hell this thing is. But
Cart, I think.
the cart before the ox.
I think like the gut microbiome stuff. It's either there's one of two things. Either it's going to come out where it bombs out and it's not what everybody thought it was, or it's going to be what everybody thought it was, but it's way more complicated and we're just not there yet. So I think it's like one of those two things.
Yeah, it's a little premature to start making hard recommendations on, which, all this stuff is too, by the way. Like, what we're talking about is really what's worked for us and, other people that it's worked for, and the fact that, you can do this, and we've been having great health so far. So this is something that I think everyone should look into on their own and experiment with, and basically look out for themselves. If it's not working, then don't say Chris and Will told me to do this, and you screw yourself over.
And then one last thing before we go, have you gotten your blood work done at all? Since you've done
No.
this? None.
Never gotten my blood work done. No.
Are you concerned about that at all?
Not really.
Really?
I feel so good that I think being symptomatic of something would make me concerned. But since I'm not symptomatic of pretty much anything, I don't know. Like, before I was doing this diet, I wouldn't get my blood work done if I was just eating a standard American diet,
Yeah.
And now that I'm doing this and I've cut out all of the crap
Isn't it
from
funny
my
though?
diet.
People are like, you didn't get your blood work done. I was like, well, when did you get your blood work
Did your mom get her blood work done? Like, does your wife have her blood work done? Like, I've cut all the crap from my diet and I feel great. So I haven't decided to suddenly do that.
I have my blood work right here. HDL 87, triglycerides 85, and my total cholesterol is 391, which will cause any doctor to go into a panic.
To freak out, yeah.
My LDL cholesterol is, where is that? I don't even know. Why is it not on here? Small. Anyway.
They chose not to put it on there.
No,
Didn't want to
it's
scare
on
you.
here somewhere. Well, it's not.
I might
says
actually be
LDL
getting my blood
size.
work done soon, though.
Well, anyway, LDL. Here it is. No, it's not. I don't know. 287. That's what it is. 287. So yeah, my LDL was high, but I think that in everything I've listened to and everybody I've talked to, I showed this same blood work to Dave Feldman, who's done a lot of work around cholesterol and figuring out like what does LDL actually mean. I've showed it to Peter Attia. Now Peter Attia said that's concerning to me, and then Dave Feldman's like, nah, it's totally fine, And I think that Peter Attia's taking the doctor. Like he's limited to the fact that he's a practicing physician.
Yeah.
He can't tell you this looks great.
Yeah, can't theorize outside of that.
If he doesn't feel that it matches that, right?
Yeah.
And Dave Feldman's looking at it and he's saying, well, your triglycerides are low and your HDL is low, which would lead me to believe that you're fairly healthy, and looking at all the other markers on the test as fairly healthy. I think the blood work thing is something that's going to be in debate for quite a long time.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue to get my blood work done. There's been nothing on my blood work besides my LDL being high that has been any sort of problem. If you look here, like when they give you blood work, usually like in the different panels, it'll say like low, high, or whatever. And there's really nothing that stands out as being.
That's a
off.
huge outlier.
The only thing that's out that's off is my LDL. But if you look at some things are interesting, like vitamin D. That's a great health marker.
Yeah.
Is your vitamin D high? Mine's 54.6. It's supposed to be 30. Is like what's good,
Yeah.
So I mean, like all these markers that are supposed to be good are just out of control good. You know, like HDL being like 87, that's really good. That's really high, you know. And so is and triglycerides being low like that, that's really low. So those numbers are really good. I want to continue to get my blood work done so we can keep, you know, going back and
track it.
I would like to see if I'm getting healthier or am I getting worse. That's
the only thing that's startlingly high is your midichlorian count, which seems to be off the charts.
What is that?
Star Wars reference.
Count.
Your force sensitivity. Do you remember episode 1, Star Wars?
Episode 1?
Episode 1.
Like
The Phantom Menace.
No.
Oh, that was Anakin's
no.
blood work. His midichlorian was off the charts.
See, because if you say, you know, if you were referencing like a real Star Wars movie, I probably would have got it.
That's what everyone says, man, but I can't sit through the old ones. I don't know.
What?
I was never that big of a fan of them. I grew up. I remember that was one of the first movies I saw, The Phantom Menace.
The Phantom Menace is like one of the worst movies
I
I've
know.
ever seen.
That's what they say.
But you liked it.
I loved it. I
But you were
loved
like
all of
5
the new
or
ones
something when it came out.
Yeah, but I go back and watch them. I still like them.
Man, I can't.
I know, it's a generational thing.
I can't
That's
believe
just what it
anybody
is.
likes them.
That's how I feel about.
You don't tell me you like Creed.
Yeah, I love Creed. I think.
All right. This is over.
Okay, so Creed compared to the old Rocky movies, no, I'm not going to put it above those any day. Especially Rocky 4, which is my favorite. But Creed, I think Creed's great.
Okay, so Rocky 4 is your favorite.
Yeah.
And then what did you think of Creed 2?
I thought Creed 2 was good. I liked it.
Compared to Rocky 4?
Compared to Rocky 4, no. It's
not
that
look,
cultural
you're
change.
You're looking at like Rocky 4 is like that's like 100%.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at Creed and it's maybe 40%. Maybe. Like maybe on a good day. Like it didn't have any magic to it.
I see what you're saying.
In my opinion.
Yeah. I like the story behind it. I liked a guy that was nobody could pick him up out of this pit that he was in, not his wife, not his mom, nobody except himself. And he was trying to do that on his own, and then Rocky comes along and helps him out. I like that, and I can identify with that. Whether the whole movie as a whole, I mean, I liked it, man. What can I say? I liked it. I thought it was okay. But Rocky 4 is just a classic. Like if you're going to compare any movie to that,
it's hard to compare.
Yeah, you can't really stack up.
I mean, you can compare like Braveheart to it, but
Braveheart, yeah.
You can put that up there.
What else is fantastic? Do you like The Godfather, or is that too slow for you?
The Godfather's kind of slow.
Everyone always says that. I love The Godfather.
I liked Rocky. I liked Fight Club's one of my favorite movies.
Fight Club's fantastic.
Yeah, I like Fight Club for like the first hour. Mm-hmm. Now we're rambling on. We got to get out of here. We're done talking about carnivore. We're in the movies now. So we are out of here. We will see you guys next time. We will post something cool and ask some questions, and then we will get back to you guys with some answers.
Until next time.
All right. Take it easy.